Oh my God, man, we back friends with another video. Oh, Jesus. And guess who? You know our favorite YouTuber, man. Jason Blaha, Strength and Baloney Fitness. The lifting gym slave, fitness slave, whatever you want to call a vegan slave, bro. Man, this is the epitome of what I would call a lifting slave. Look at that face again. Look at that smug look on his face. Yeah. Let's review this video. So he says, Jason Blaha says, training beyond failure does not produce more muscle growth. Produce more muscle growth? How does it produce muscle growth? I'm so confused, man. This is just insane, insanity. How the hell does a weight build muscles?
Taking sets beyond failure or using a lot of these intensity methods.
Hold on, let's go to the beginning.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why taking sets beyond failure or using a lot of these intensity methods probably is not going to do anything for muscle growth for a drug-free lifter.
Do anything for muscle growth for a drug-free lifter? Anything for muscle? Exercises, they don't build muscles. They damage muscles. They damage them or injure. Injure them. They can damage them and they can injure them. Now the damage, when you say damage and injury, the injury means more like micro injuries, and then damage, it could be hypoxia, this, that, something, whatever, and some shit's going on over there. I don't know. It's a regenerative thing. Muscles, yeah. Toxins, this, that, whatever. There's all kinds of ways to damage your muscle fibers, but there's only one way to injure them. To seriously injure them to build up more muscle fibers. That's totally different.
And I want to be clear here when I say that the presence of significant amounts of substances may change that, and there's a reason it may change it. And so the people understand.
Substances are gonna change that, bro. You're no longer in the natty world, bro. I can't believe it. The government is selling drugs. They're giving drugs to kids, injecting them with drugs. This is crazy, bro. This is North America, bro. We're supposed to be keeping our kids safe away from drugs, but guess what? The drugs are everywhere. Holy shit.
With a little bit of nuance, there's two things at play. Number one, when your hormone levels are stable, meaning the amount of anabolic hormones in your body is relative.
The anabolic hormones are stable? Okay, what's anabolic? What kind of hormones are anabolic? Okay. What about a catabolic hormone? Is catabolic hormone anabolic? Is it competing with the anabolic hormones? Must be. How do you shut off the catabolic hormone so then you can be anabolic? So that you can now exceed that breakdown in proteins so you can actually see the mass on the myofibrillar, huh? What you got to do there to do that?
Relatively stable. Either you don't take anything, or if you do take anything, you stay.
Again, here we go with the artificial lifestyle. If you take something to create something fake, something artificial in the artificial world that we live in, it's so artificial already. Who does it matter if we do any more artificial stuff? Who cares, right? Look at him swinging these weights. This is concentric, bro. He's just swinging them up in the air. That's what people do when they get a nada. They just get better at swinging these weights. Yeah.
A certain amount, and you don't increase it year after year. So
I just love watching him. He's like, whoop-a, whoop-a. There's no eccentric at all in there. Nothing. No eccentric. It's just throw it up in the air. There's barely any concentric and barely any concentric. It's just throwing it up in the air.
Just call that the same. All right. What ends up happening the longer you train?
I love this shit.
The less your more intermediate muscle fibers are capable of growing. Okay, they max out. In fact,
they max out. The more they can grow, they max out. What?
Your slowest twitch fibers that you use to walk and all that stuff, they get as big as they're going to get just from walking.
The slow twitch muscle fibers, they're in slow twitch right now because you're a chronic lifter. It's protecting the type 2s from getting damaged. Yeah, it's protection because you're chronically lifting. If you're chronically lifting, it's going to protect it from damage. When does a muscle become unprotected from damage? When it's unaccustomed to lifting the weight. Yeah, man. Do you understand me? It's unaccustomed, and guess what? It get damaged. Yeah, man.
And they don't get any bigger. Okay? That's it. They're done.
They don't get any bigger, the type 1s. They can get big. There's hybrid, there's smaller fibers. There's a bunch of fibers in there. There's all kinds of fibers. You'd be surprised what's inside there, inside the box.
Once you've learned to walk and you walk regularly, so on and so forth.
Once you learn how to walk, you walk regularly. I love this guy. Trying to convince you lifting a heavy weight is going to build muscles and all this kind of stuff, bro. You know what it says here about lifting? This is just one paragraph. Like if you just type, what grows muscles? Well, they'll tell you muscle size increase when a person continually challenges the muscles to deal with higher levels of resistance or weight. And I would agree with that. That would help. Yeah, you know, to help. But it alone is not going to grow muscles. Okay? What you're not growing muscles in the gym. Why? Because it says this process is known as what? Muscle hypertrophy. Okay. Muscle hypertrophy occurs when the fibers of the muscle sustain what? Damage or injury. That's when they grow. Muscle hypertrophy occurs when fibers of the muscle sustains what? Damage or injury. If no damage, no injury, no hypertrophy. Get it, guy? Plus, you need to eat a certain amount, otherwise it'll become apoptotic. So they even tell you here, when does a muscle become unprotected from the repeated bout effects so it can now become damaged? Well, if a person is unaccustomed to a specific exercise, or if it is of greater than normal intensity or duration, all forms of exercise can cause damage and pain. They can cause damage and pain, but they also take a week to repair and remodel. However, exercise-induced muscle damage, EIMD, is most often caused by high-intensity eccentric exercise. It is. And it is associated with damage and pain, painful restriction, movement, and all this kind of stuff, bro. Get it? Look, they even have a section here. You can read all this. This is induced muscle damage, blah, blah, blah. I think I brought this one up before previously. Yeah. They have that section in there. This one here. Physiology of exercise-induced muscle damage, its structural function, metabolic, and clinical consequences. The consequences. Extreme or unaccustomed eccentric exercise. Notice they never say concentric. They say eccentric exercise can cause what? Exercise-induced muscle damage, characterized by structural changes involving sarcomere, skeletal muscle membrane, disrupted force transmission, altered calcium homeostasis, disruption of excitation, contraction, coupling, as well as metabolic changes, bringing about loss of strength. Importantly, the trauma also invokes an inflammation response, clinical presents itself by swelling, decreased range of motion, increased passive tension, soreness like a motherfucker, and a transient decrease in insulin sensitivity while being damaging and influencing heavily the ability to perform what? Repeated bouts of exercise. It becomes very difficult because you're damaged. Changes produced by exercise-induced muscle damage seem to play a crucial role in what? Myofibrillar adaptations, because, adaptations. You'll get more adaptations, you'll get bigger and stronger. Additionally, eccentric exercise yields greater hypertrophy than isometric or concentric contractions and requires less in terms of metabolic energy and cardiovascular stress, making it especially suitable for the elderly and so forth and so on and whatever. It is superior to all modalities in lifting. Okay, man? So, yeah, when you could say it's partly isometric with the concentric exercises. So, and then they talk about that section there that I was just talking about, so previously. So, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, but protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. What builds muscles? What builds muscles? Well, it's really easy. Here we go. Protein synthesis. When protein synthesis exceeds muscle protein breakdown, muscle hypertrophy, known as muscle growth, occurs. See, it occurs when protein exceeds that breakdown, broski. Yeah, man. Hypertrophy is dependent on the balance between muscle protein synthesis and breakdown and can be influenced by many factors, including nutrition and exercise. It can, yes. It could do a lot of things. You'd be surprised. You could be surprised what it could do, yes. You'd be super surprised, broski. Yes, man.
And what happens as we get more advanced, only the higher...
more advanced. See, let's listen to our coach.
Threshold muscle fibers, when you get really advanced, still have the ability to grow. And the various intermediate fibers, the longer you train, they start maxing out in size.
You have the ability to grow. You get the ability to grow as you max and this, that, whatever you max out. You're not maxing out shit.
Because they don't have really an unlimited size potential, they will stop growing, and the further you...
No, they won't. They won't stop growing because they're constantly breaking down. They're building up and breaking down these proteins inside the cell, in that extracellular matrix, the cell. Inside the cell, the proteins are building up and breaking down. Now, if protein synthesis exceeds that breakdown, then there will be a buildup in proteins. But if it doesn't, then you'll never build jack shit. You'll build some sarcoplasmic, maybe fake muscles.
Go up that chain towards faster twitch, the more this becomes true over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
me personally, I prefer to build more myofibrils. More myofibrils, the density is better to move for because at least it will last. Because if that mass goes and you can't maintain it for very long, at least you have a backup. You got the density. You got more muscle fibers to fall back on. Yeah, man.
Think of it in that way, about it, say the 20 types of different intermediate fibers you have. As you go up the row of them, only the fastest twitch ones can continue to grow. But
only the faster twitch can continue to grow. No, not necessarily. As an older person, it's the smaller fibers, they start growing. I talked about this. I put it in my community section. They talk about in older people, what happens in muscle growth. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The whole type 2, if you're a chronic lifter, it's in type 1. It's hiding in there, protecting the type 2 from being damaged. That's its job. I told you how you get out of the repeated bout effect phenomena, unaccustomed things. If you do it unaccustomed, that's how you get out of repeated bout effect phenomena. You must be unaccustomed, like your wife. If you become accustomed to your wife, you need to go and be unaccustomed to her, so then you can bring back the love, the sex, and everything will come back. But if you stay there, you'll be in the repeated bout effect. You'll be stale. You'll hate what you're doing. You'll get nothing, a zero, a nada, like every other gym goer. You'll be a lifting slave, bro, gym slave. Getting nowhere fast.
other ones cut out at different punts. Maybe 6 months this one stops, a year this one. And we don't have exact figures, but we do know that's the general trend. Okay, so that be...
I love watching Coach swinging this weight up and down. It's funny, like a yo-yo. He's like a little man, like this. You know Pez? You ever see that little thing you buy in the store called Pez and has these little bricks, then it comes out. It's little sugar candies. Pez, you just pop him. He looks like that guy on there, and he's pulling this thing.
Said, the longer you train at any given hormone profile, the more that becomes true. That's one of the reasons muscle growth slows down. It's not that the upper threshold fibers grow less. They keep growing almost indefinitely.
It doesn't slow down. It never slows down. It's in a flux of breaking down and building up. Your problem is that you're just not building it up. Look, man, fat people, they eat carbohydrates, they eat shitty, weird fat food. And so the fat cell, it starts growing. Now, if protein synthesis exceeds that breakdown, then the proteins on the myofibrillar, they'll start growing. They'll start growing, getting massive all over the place. I can't tell you how big it can get for you. I can't tell you when you reach that M&D size. I can't tell you. But when it does, you're going to need more of these progenitor cells so you can continue that M&D size. Now, some people say they reached a newbie gain limit, genetic limit, hard gain or whatever. They say these things to themselves after when the gains are not coming anymore. They did get a newbie gain, but then they didn't get no more because they were unaccustomed when they came to the gym. And now they're accustomed, so they're not getting any more damage, and so they're not growing muscles. Muscles have to be damaged to grow. If they're not damaged, they're never going to grow.
It seems like, years and years and years and years, if you can reach them and fatigue them and stimulate them, okay? But those are your deeper fibers. They're a little harder to get to. All right, so hopefully everyone understands this. And then when people add stuff, and you guys know what stuff is, there's a whole variety of things. What happens? Those other muscle fibers get exposed to it, and then they can start growing again, and so on and so forth. So here's where we're going to go with the going beyond failure. As you are doing a set, let's just say a set of leg extensions for whatever, 20 reps. Let's say it's your 20 rep max. All right, the first probably 10 reps of that, you're not recruiting any upper threshold fibers. Okay. In fact, let's come over to, let's just say a curl. Just say a curl for 10 reps. Let's say it's your 10 rep max. A 10th rep is your last rep you can do, and you would just fail on the 11th if you don't cheat, right? Everyone gets that. The first 3, 4, 5 reps are probably just warm-ups. They're just working various intermediate fibers. They're not getting to the highest threshold muscle fibers. As we do more work and we fatigue the other muscle fibers, what happens? Your body uses, through rate coding, I believe it's also called the Hierman principle, what ends up happening, as necessary, the other muscle fibers turn on demand. They can turn on from hitting a really heavy weight close to a max immediately, or throwing or punching something as hard as you possibly can, sure, absolutely. Otherwise, when we're just lifting, they don't get hit till the other muscle fibers get fatigued. And so as each set of...
What is he talking about? This man, coach is totally lost here, man. He's making this stuff up.
Muscle fibers do that, say 20 different types you have, get fatigued, he goes further.
What are the 20 types, coach? Please tell us. We all want to be educated, bro. Come on, man. You got to tell us the secret, guy. What are all these 20 types of muscle fibers, bro? They're so important to know these things.
Further up the chain. Okay, so usually...
Coach, why are you swinging those weights up and down like a yo-yo?
The last few reps, as we get close to muscle failure, we start hitting the deeper...
We start hitting the deeper muscle fibers and we start hitting it? Oh.
Muscle fibers. Okay, assuming we're putting...
We start hitting the deeper muscle fibers. As far as I know, the heavier you go, then you start damaging the deeper, the weaker. It's not the deeper, weaker, the weaker muscle fibers, the weaker ones, which are, I guess, deeper, I guess you could call it. Yeah, if you're going heavier.
The muscles in positions to work the fibers for that, right? Lengthened positions tend to do the most, so on and so forth. All right.
Lengthened positions tend to do the most. Well, are you talking about eccentric, lengthened positions? Well, yeah, that's it. I would say that this movement, what he's doing here, is a eccentric movement. Well, I guess, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess, yeah, A squat is eccentric. Squats are eccentric because you start from the top moving to the bottom. You don't start from the bottom up. You're not going from the bottom to the top. You're going from the top to the bottom. So, yeah, I would consider this the same, but he's using a belt. So he doesn't have the squat thing on his back. He's just using his legs here with this tied around his waist, which I think is totally useless, but I mean, it's good for certain specific things. I say if you have a cable machine is much better. You're gonna get the negative there and the positive, and plus, yeah, if you've never done it, you should try it with the cable machine. It works wonders. You're gonna get damaged in the legs because you probably never done it before, and when you do it, you're gonna get a relative amount of damage, and your body's going to adjust by growing it, specifically if you eat, so it doesn't become apoptotic. But it'll become apoptotic if protein synthesis doesn't exceed that breakdown or whatever. If you're not anabolic, let's just put it that way.
Everyone follow this? So when you hit muscle failure, what has generally happened? You've accumulated enough metabolites and things happening with calcium and other stuff that those highest threshold muscle fibers are done. They just stop.
No. Then you're a chronic lifter. You're not getting damage. You're getting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. I've showed this before on the last one. I produced it. This is what you people get when you're chronically lifting. Here, look. This is what you people are getting out there. Get it, broski? Yeah, man. Muscle fiber hypertrophy in response to 6 weeks of high volume resistance training in trained young men is largely attributed to what? In trained young men, your training high volume is largely attributed to what? Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Get it? But unaccustomed people, they get what? People that are unaccustomed. A person is unaccustomed to specific exercise. They get what? They get damage and pain. Damage and pain. You understand me? Yeah, they get muscle damage. Yeah, broski, they get muscle damage. But people that are trained, they get sarcoplasmic. Yeah, man.
happening with calcium and other stuff, that those highest threshold muscle fibers are done. They just stop firing.
And you're like, what is sarcoplasmic? It's a type of artificial muscle growth. It's glycogen. It's sarcoplasmic proteins. It isn't contractile proteins.
Quit. They simply will not contract anymore until they've had time for the various metabolites to clear and everything. They're done. That's why you hit failure.
No. I've never really hit failure damaging my muscles in a gym. They get protected by something called repeated bout effect phenomena. It starts kicking in right away. As you're unaccustomed and you're lifting, the repeated bout effect kind of comes in there because it can't allow you to damage every single muscle fiber. You'd be an invalid. You wouldn't be able to walk or move around. You'd be crippled completely. So yeah, a relative amount of fibers get injured, and it's usually the weaker ones, the weak ones. And then those weak ones, when they become injured and they repair and remodel stronger, they become resilient from getting damaged with a repeated bout. Get it? So when you come into the gym now, you have to really challenge them, the weaker ones, to get damaged. And then they get bigger, better, stronger, and faster too. So they're not going to break down a second time either. Or even another time, if you get it a third time, those ones won't break down anymore. So you got to keep challenging by lifting heavier. You understand me? By damaging it. And you would, because as you get bigger, you get stronger. Because they get stronger, you get stronger, the weights get lighter. Yeah, so forth and so on, bro. Get it? You get more myofibulars, yeah. Providing you are eating in an anabolic growth state. Eating.
Okay, the weight just stops moving. So...
Sorry, I should have put it back here. I flipped this thing.
See where we're going with this?
I see.
People are like, but if I drop the weight down, I can do more reps, so I'm hitting them again. No, you're not. They won't contract anymore. They're done.
No, they'll contract. But he's talking about fatiguing a muscle. You got lactic acid buildup in the muscle, so you fatigued it, and the cells are swollen now. You got hypoxia damage and hypoxia, RAS, and I don't know. Oxidative stress. So these are not the best things for muscles.
You're back to using the muscle fibers you used for the first 3 or 4 or 5 reps again. Those have had enough time to recover, right? They've had 10, 15 seconds. They can go again.
Okay, they recovered. The lactic acid has left the muscle, so you want to beat them up again. Okay, great.
So when people do all these post-failure things, what are they usually doing? They're either taking a resting 3-4 seconds, trying to get another rep or two, resting 3 or 4 seconds, getting another rep or two.
I could tell you my legs are killing me, man. I just did them actually with the cable this time. The belt cable, and I'm telling you, man, my legs... Oh, Christ, man, hard to walk. I was surprised at the amount of damage I got on them. I think squat, I just wasn't really they just weren't damaging anymore on the squat for some reason. So I figured I'd go back to doing these cables now and just tying up the belt, the cable, and just like moving with the cable, the negative, the positive. There's more stress on the thighs. Plus, you could make it into almost like what you would call a sissy squat type of thing, because you're holding on to the 2 metal bars and you're just going up and down using your legs, and it causes much more damage in the muscle fiber, I noticed. Because yeah, it's easy, and you don't have to lift the heaviest weight, but it's still heavy because there's positive, negative. It's still pulling you down and you're pulling up and down. So yeah, the contraction it's a slow contraction, so there's a lot of eccentric there.
Is that hitting any of the upper threshold fibers? No. It's just hitting the same ones you did the first 5 reps with, because they've recovered enough to do that. What happens if you drop to a lighter weight? Let's say you're using a 30-pound dumbbell and you drop to a 20. You can squeeze out a couple more reps, right? Sure, because you're back to using...
And what good is that going to do if you go lighter? Though you're going to hit the muscles, your newbie gain muscles, which are already stronger. They don't damage. They're resilient from being damaged.
Those weaker muscle fibers again. They can still fire again.
The weaker muscle fibers? No. They're all strong now. They're all strong. They're resilient from being busted. It says in science. Read it. Community section.
How about forced reps, where someone helps you lift the weight and you do more? The exact same thing. How about if you just do partials through the easier part of the range of motion? The same thing. You're back
What if you do those? What if you do them? What about it?
to hitting the same muscle fibers you used for the first few reps in the 10 rep set. That is what's...
That's why you want to start with the heaviest weight you could do every time you come back to the gym. I mean, if you're unaccustomed, I'm not talking about people that are accustomed to lifting. I'm not talking about chronic lifters like this joker here. This lifting slave, you understand me? Yeah, adapted slave. I call him adapted slave.
happening in every one of these techniques. Okay, and everyone's like, but it's training hard. Yeah, it is, and I used to do all that. I used to do that stuff years ago too. Tons of it when I was younger.
He did nothing. He did it when he was younger, and I see it all here. He's that hump he has on his back. He says he has a big back. That's kyphosis. He suffers from kyphosis.
Just like all of you, because, you know,
This is kyphosis. This is kyphosis back. His head's bent over. Look at that. It's kyphosis.
people said, hey, this is the way to go. But again, the issue comes over to you're just reworking muscle fibers that probably have very little growth potential. Unless you're a novice, and if you've been training 5+ years and you haven't added any stuff, or if you've been at the same amount of stuff for 3 or 4 years, you haven't increased it.
None of you are. Neither is your coach here because he's adapted.
You're probably not stimulating any growth with this. You're just beating your recovery up.
That's right. What did I tell you? What causes muscle damage? How do you get a repeat about effect phenomenon? How'd you get out of there? Unaccustomed exercise of any kind can be what? Injurious, broski. Yeah. Any kind can be damaging and injurious. What does it say here? If a person is unaccustomed to a specific exercise, one that you've never done before, or if it is of greater than normal intensity, yeah, or a duration sometimes as well, a very long duration. All forms of exercise can cause damage, and all forms of these exercises can cause what? Damage and pain. See that? Damage and pain. So what's he talking about? He's a chronic lifter. He's not unaccustomed to doing these exercises because he likes to pretend that he's strong. He wants to pretend he's strong by lifting a heavy weight, getting chemical strength, phony chemical strength. What makes the ant able to lift 10 times his body weight? You want to know what it is? Well, because he's 75% muscle. Okay. What's the percentage of a human? What's their percent in muscle? Relatively normal. 40%. Now, I don't know about these other body types, but let's say an ectomorph, 40%, but an ant has 75%, so he can lift 10 times his body weight. Now, a tiger, what's the difference between a tiger and a lion? Well, a lion, I think he's 50 to 55% muscle, 55% muscle. And a tiger is 65%. So the tiger will always be stronger than the lion because he's 10% more in muscles than that's why he's so muscular, more than the lion. And the tigers are usually heavier. They're bigger in muscle. They're all muscle. They're bigger than the lion. They're much heavier. They're like 750 pounds, 650, 750. Lions are only around 500 or something. 450, 500. But tigers, they're over 650, 750. Some up to 800. So they're pretty massive beasts, okay?
Right? Where does your growth really happen at any given point? The last couple reps before failure, or...
Oh, your growth happens, the growth happens before failure. I guess that would be the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy growth, right? The phony one, the glycogen, okay.
Or to muscle failure, right? Failing a rep doesn't produce extra growth, by the way. But sometimes we need...
Doesn't produce extra failing growth? Why? Because you're not eating enough glycogen? For every gram of glycogen, 3 grams of water being drawn between skin and muscle into the muscle?
To take stuff to failure to know that we got close, okay, fair enough. That's a foolproof method. It's not always safe. But if you stop 1 rep short of failure and the last rep is really difficult,
yes,
and you know you would fail the next one, you hit all the available muscle fibers. The only way you're going to hit them again is to take a 3 or 4 minute break before you train again.
Okay.
That's it. Before you hit another set of those with those muscles. Outside of that, you're not going to be able to hit them again. And when you get so deep into a workout that you can't even move the weights anymore, that you could work early on, you've probably fatigued those muscle fibers too much to work them any further. At that point, it's just choke volume. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today.
So you're
I hope
fatiguing
it's been
them,
informative. And
So you were fatiguing them. You're not damaging them. There you go. He just proved it. You are all fatiguing your muscles. You're not damaging. Okay. There we go. That just says it all, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Tell what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Your favorite neighborhood lifting slave, Jason Blaha, says it. He just told you right there. He said it all. There's no damage. He never mentioned anything about damaging muscles because that's what grows muscles and food. And so that's the stimulus and then the food. And so there's nothing there. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, friends.